Hi, today I'm going to review Macao by Stefan Feld. It's a fairly abstract Euro game about shipping, but it works very well. We're going to go over the components, how to play, and then I'll tell you what I think. Okay, here we can see the components. First we've got this board. It's not super detailed, it's pretty easy to read. It's a great size. We've got all these goods tokens and gesture tokens over in the city districts. Every player will have their own pieces. You have a ship that you move. You have two wooden discs to keep track of player order and your points. And over here you've got a board for your cards. You'll have a stack of these markers to mark districts you buy and punishments. And this, the windrows, we're going to get to in a little bit. We've got a lot of cards. These are the office cards, and then a deck of people/building cards. And finally, we have a bunch of gold tokens. There's more in the box. A ton of wooden cubes, and these very nice wooden dice. Okay, so now we're going to look at how to play. It plays out in 12 rounds. Each round has 3 phases. The card phase, the dice phase, and then the action phase. So first, the card phase. You're going to pick up the 2 office cards from the lowest valued space, and here you can see there's 12 spaces, so this also counts as a round marker to track the length of the game. And first you're going to use this to set the tribute. You draw 4, not 6. And on each of these cards, you add up the gold numbers and the red numbers to count how many points you can buy and for how much. So here we have, for 5 gold this round, you will be able to buy 10 points. That's pretty good. Okay? And then you discard the last 2, well, depending on the number of players, you will discard a variable number of cards, but with 2 players, you will discard back down to 4 cards. So now there's a draft. Whoever is highest up on the wall will draft first, and you have to draft a card. So they might take this. When you take a card, you will put it on this board, and you can see you can only hold up to 5 cards. Now, if you would ever take a card, which you have to do every round, and there's no room for it, you must discard one of these cards. It can be the card you just took, or one of the 5 cards you already have, so you might want to get rid of this for that. And then you would take a punishment marker, which is worth -3 points at the end of the game. Okay? These cards are not actually available to use yet. This just shows that you intend to pay for them later. And that is the card phase. Then, when you come over here to the dice phase, somebody is going to roll all 6 dice. It's a public roll for the whole table. And then again, in player order, you each get to pick 2 dice. And this doesn't block anybody else. You can all pick the same 2 dice, or pick the same die multiple times, and yada yada yada. When you pick a die, that will tell you the number of cubes you take and the color. So I might take 1 purple and 5 red cubes if I wanted to. And the catch here is that you're going to put these next to the die face, basically, that matches it. And then after everybody's picked, you're going to turn this windrows, and the cubes it's pointing at are the cubes you get to use that round for actions. So this round I would only get to use this 1 purple cube. If I want to use these 5 red cubes, I have to wait 5 turns, basically, to be able to get to them. And this is really going to be kind of the central mechanic for the game. Then we're going to come over here to the action phase, which is where you're going to do pretty much everything else. There's a number of things you can do, most of which involve spending these action cubes. There's only 2 things you can do that don't cost action cubes. The first is to buy points. You can do this once per round. we already set this during the card phase. You would pay this much gold to get this many points, moving your pawn up the track. And the second thing you can do that doesn't cost any action cubes is to activate your cards that have been brought out into play. So to spend the cubes, there's a number of things you can do. The first thing would be to pay for one of these cards. Like this, you could spend a black cube and 2 green cubes to bring that out. And now, once per round, well, no, this doesn't help. This is the first phase card. Basically, this one lets you not have to take a card during the phase. That's a bad example, though. So, like if you had this guy, once per round, you can take any one AC. That's an action cube. Okay, another thing you can do with your action cubes is come over to this district. You can only buy 1 good per round, but you can spend, the indicated amount on the space. If I could spend these 2 reds, I don't have yet, but for sake of example, you spend these 2 reds, they go on your ship on this board here, and then coming back over here, you mark the district with an ownership marker, and it's going to be worth points at the end of the game. Okay. You can also spend 1 cube to move up 1 space on the track, and for up the wall track. And for every 2 additional cubes you spend past that in a round, you can move up an extra space. And this just determines player order. I'm going to take these, pretend it's a player marker. If you move on top of somebody, you actually go on top of them, and whoever's on top of the stack goes first. So in that way, it's kind of a catch-up mechanism. And the last thing you can do with your cubes is to spend 1 cube, or however many you want to move that many spaces. When you stop in these cities, if you have the matching goods, like I have this rice over here from before, if I get to this city, I can automatically deliver it and get the highest number of points. So I get 5, and score those points immediately. And that is roughly how you play the game. You're going to go through 12 rounds of this. There's not a lot of end-game scoring. You score points. Some of your cards will say game end, and for your districts, you score your largest connected district area, 1 point for each space in that. So if I controlled these 3 spaces and 2 over here, I would score these 3 points. So that's how we play Macao, and I will tell you what I think about it. Okay, so that was how to play Macao. I really like this game. I want to say that first off. It's got, one of the few really accessible but deeply strategic rather than just tactical games I've played. You really have to think, sometimes 5, 6 or more turns ahead to plan out everything, but because of the dice, it's not quite a brain burner like that. It's pretty easy to, it's not easy to plan out, but there's a lot of stress removed from planning out. But it's still very strategic. A couple things I missed. When you turn your win rows, if you don't have any cubes, you also get a punishment marker. That's worth -3 points at the end of the game unless you can get a card to cancel it out. So you have to balance between making sure you always have cubes every round, just getting a few, and getting a lot of big turns later on. So that's a really neat dynamic. I also forgot to explain these brown joker tiles. You can cash these in any time for a cube of your choice or 3 gold. It's one of the few ways to get gold in the game. So yeah, it's a very neat game. There's a lot of interlocking game elements. There's a couple strategies, it looks like, mostly with the cards. You can usually focus on gold or shipping and possibly ownership, but that's not quite as many points. But because of the dice and the cards, it still plays pretty differently every time. So that's Macao by Stefan Feld. You should check it out.